Geico presents Our Town, Season 4, a 30-minute podcast produced by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks. Geico, 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now, here's your host, Andy Ockershausen.
This is Our Town, and this is Andy Ockershausen, and I'm just so excited to welcome a very special guest, my favorite tree hugger, and I use that term in all affection. This man is a very, very famous forester. He's famous because I think he's famous. We found him as a local manager at Bartlett Tree Experts about probably 15 to 20 years ago, Tyler. It's been a great relationship. Tyler Balderson, welcome to Our Town.
Thanks for having me.
Isn't this a great town to have Our Town?
It's a great town.
Even though we're familiar with you with Anne Arundel County, that's part of our town. We've always considered it that. Odenton, where you had some, that's where your office is in Odenton.
That is correct.
But you're a local yokel.
I'm a local yokel, born and raised.
In Bethesda.
In Bethesda, yeah.
Went to school in Bethesda, and your family, and your father, Andy, is a businessman in Bethesda. He had a company before you were born, I would imagine.
He did. He's a landscape architect. He's been practicing for over 40 years now.
And he decided that you'd be a tree person, but you're not an architect. You're a forester.
That is correct. Yeah, I was born and raised in a nursery where he founded our house. And so born and raised around trees, naturally, I'm going to take care of them.
Did you cut down trees to build your house?
No, I'm a tree hugger. I cut trees.
You just said the opposite. You would have loved George Washington, right? He cut down the tree, and his parents put him in trouble.
That is correct.
That's part of our town, too, Mount Vernon, you know.
Mount Vernon, we take care of the trees at Mount Vernon.
Is that right? Your
Absolutely.
company does?
Yep. I personally had been injecting those elm trees for years before when I got started in tree care. So I personally had taking care of those trees for Mount Vernon.
When you were in Bethesda?
Bethesda, yep.
Well, you always lived in Bethesda before you went to college, correct?
Correct.
And the family is back, and your grandfather was born in the city, correct?
Correct.
Within
yep.
the city limits?
Born and raised in the D.C. area, absolutely. He's in real estate.
How big? You go way back then.
We do.
Well, don't go back. Stay with us.
Correct. Balderson goes back basically from Virginia, so they kind of moved up from Virginia to your town.
How old is Bartlett Company?
1907, so it's a few years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
110 years old, 111 years old.
Absolutely.
What, it's in New England? Is that the basis? I mean, that's the home office of...
Correct. Francis started it in 1907 in Stamford, Connecticut, and it still is based there today.
The base is still there?
But we have offices throughout the world now taking care of trees, hugging trees like I do.
Yeah, but you're a master at it. But when you went away to college, did you find that you were going to have to be hugging trees in the beautiful Valley of Virginia?
I just wanted to go to Virginia Tech. I wanted to go to a great school. So I went there and didn't know what to study, and I knew about trees. So I got into the forestry program. Luckily, they had me.
Is that a big program at UVA? I mean, Tech.
Yes, Tech is Tech, West Virginia, NC State are all really big forestry programs. So
now that's all. They're all land grant schools, of course.
There you go.
So Uncle Sam wants trees to be very important to people, and I hope they are.
Absolutely. Actually, interesting story. I got a common market, basically a scholarship for in-state tuition because Maryland didn't offer any forestry programs. So they paid me, in essence, to go to Virginia Tech, study trees, come back here, and implement all my work here locally. So now Maryland supported it.
The state supported you?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Thank
but
you.
I am excited to know that the Virginia Tech University, Virginia, as I call it, Virginia Poly years ago, are spending something like $5 billion involved in the new Amazon complex. Tech is going to have a special school here of the university. I think it can handle maybe, I've said the plan, read the plan, maybe 15,000, but it's all people in the high-tech world.
There you go.
And UVA is going to do it. You know who's going to subsidize it, don't you? The public.
Oh, you don't think thank you. I'm part of the public.
Amazon's going to be there, but it's all part of the deal that they're sending the school up here. It's going to be a big tech campus at in the new Amazon. You read about that, of course. We're getting Amazon.
Yep.
They poured half of Arlington and Alexandria are going to have half in each jurisdiction, and tech is a big part of it.
Excellent.
So where do you go from here, Tyler? You were forestry, and then when did you decide to move back here?
So right after school, moved back here and got a job from a local company called Tree Masters, and they go way back from the 1950s. So my father knew of somebody, and I needed a job because I'm out of school. So forestry degree naturally worked right into that. So I worked from the ground up, from injecting and taking care of trees to climbing them and doing all the.
But
the
your
labor.
dad couldn't hire you because he was in a different world.
It's a
correct?
different field. Yeah, landscape architecture, although they're sisters to each other, you got landscape architecture, which is more of the engineering design, and I'm more of the taking care of. So you've got basically the the doctor who delivers the baby, and then you got the doctors who take care of it. So that's kind of my role, is I take care of it. I've got a permanent job.
Because he's a tree hugger. He's our favorite tree hugger. And this is Andy Ockershouse, and I'm talking to Tyler Balderson about our town.
The natural habitat of a creepy doll is a horror movie. It can't help being creepy. It's that small fixed smile and those never-closing eyes, always watching you, plotting, which you're imagining. It's mindless. But when the creepy doll hears that Geico not only saves people money, but also gives them easy access to emergency roadside service through an award-winning app, it knows you should switch. Because yes, switching to Geico is a no-brainer. The only question is, how did the creepy doll move from the bedroom to the hallway? I would get out of the house.
This is Sonny Jurgensen. Got a confession to make. I let my wife drag me to one of those Mike Collins estate planning seminars. Like I don't have enough on my plate with a certain football team. Actually, it wasn't too bad. In fact, we both learned a whole lot about how to protect our kids and grandkids down the road and to take care of ourselves right now. So if you get one of Mike's invitations in the mail, go. I'm glad I did. Get all the information and register online at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
This is Andy Ockershausen on Our Town, and a conversation with my favorite tree hugger and my favorite tree expert, Tyler Balderson, who's a Bethesda boy, grew up here, went to school at at Virginia Tech, and then moved back to work for Bartlett. And we had a great conversation about our wonderful town. It's called the City of Trees. Georgetown is a big part of it, as you know, Tyler.
Absolutely.
And it's so important what Rock Creek is to our town. Now it's become a thoroughfare. You don't live here, but Rock Creek used to be something special. Now it's whiz, whiz, whiz. It's the beautiful road through it. But most people don't stop to enjoy what it is. They just drive through it. But I grew up here, and I know what trees are, and I know how important they are.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job planning for trees here. Coming in this morning, there's just a huge amount of willow oaks. I don't know if you've noticed those trees. You have a big willow oak. And coming down to drive down a street that has a canopy of willow oaks, throughout a major city is rare. So, I think that a lot of planning's gone on when they planned this city. They use trees as an important part of providing shade, providing pollution control. So they were well beyond their years in terms of understanding the importance of trees. Lots of other cities, if you go into a brand new city, they have small little trees that are planted, but there's no major beautiful historic trees to be able to drive under, and in our lifetime we may not see that, but Washington has that, and I think it makes it a very special place to visit.
We notice it so much. Janice and I have been living in this city a long time. Massachusetts Avenue is a green tunnel almost from Union Station to into Maryland. It's amazing. This is our primary road, of course. Our main street is Massachusetts. It's covered by green. It's fabulous.
It is. Well, I think the sales of convertibles around here to be able to drive underneath the shady trees has gone up, because otherwise you would just cook out there. So shade is the first thing we think about, but all the things like wildlife. Where do the critters live around here? They'd have no place to live if you didn't have trees. So birds and wildlife.
Well, we're fortunate with Rock Creek Park because it's a wonderful, wonderful green ribbon right through the middle of our town. Starts at the river and ends up way up in Montgomery County somewhere. And that is very, very important to the animal life. In fact, we have too many animals here because of Rock Creek. We have deer problem, and now I understand there's some coyotes that occasionally appear in the Rock Creek area, north, up in Bethesda. You've heard about that. I'm sure it must have reached Odenton.
Certainly, we have some coyotes in Odenton as well. But no, I completely agree with you. Rock Creek's a special place, and we've been taking care of trees for over 100 years. So we've been in the D.C. market that long, and we've been taking care of trees. If you don't take care of trees, just like anything in life, you don't take care of yourself, you're going to have problems. You're going to have tree failures. A lot of people are a little bit concerned about trees, and safety is the first thing we look at. I mean, I love trees. I want to hug them. But if you're nervous or concerned about a tree falling on your house, you should probably consider removing it and starting over with a new one. So safety is really important. Preventative care. Well, cabling, lightning protection. People had no idea you could protect a tree with lightning, and you've invested in that, and it's saved your trees.
Absolutely. We have 3 wonderful, big, huge trees. They're protected. Now, but do you get who takes care of Rock Creek? It's Park Service, correct?
Correct.
So you work for the Park Service here.
They do, and we've worked then. We've been contracted as a contractor from the Park Service to be able to work on Rock Creek. We've worked all over the world on trees. So
well, Mount Vernon is under the Park Service.
Mount Vernon, Monticello, in downtown Annapolis, the Liberty Tree, the Wye Oak. We put over a mile worth of cables in the Wye Oak.
That's even though it's on the Eastern Shore, that's our town.
You know what? You have saplings from that tree in your town, I guarantee it, and I can identify it. I walk on a property and I'll say, that's a Wye Oak sapling, before they even know that I know it's a Wye Oak sapling. That's how much of a tree hugger I am. I love it.
Well, you're a forester.
That's
you
what I
should
do.
That.
It's my job.
Who else was a forester? Robin Hood.
Tyler,
that's my Janny O.
If you were to suggest 10 of the most important trees in the Washington area or our town, what would they be? Give us a couple.
I'll give you a couple. Willow oak. You guys are inundated with willow oaks, and willow oaks is one of the toughest oak species. It's the oak tree that has the willow leaf. It looks like a weeping willow leaf. That's how you identify the willow oak. The cherry tree. How could you not think of Washington without the Yoshino cherry from Japan?
Right.
The dogwood. It's a native tree I see in the DC market. Let me think what over. Maples. Obviously, you guys have a lot of maples here in your town. So those are really.
Do we have any historic trees that are notable that we can visit? That we would recognize?
That you would recognize? Obviously, the cherry trees are the ones that really come first to my mind in terms of
great events.
Millions and millions of people go see the cherry blossoms.
Oh, yeah.
That's one that comes to mind. But I think there's historic trees. Lincoln's Cottage, I know, has some historic trees. So there are a lot of trees. There may be a historic tree in your backyard. You don't even know it. And so understanding the size of the tree and how old trees are is really important to understand whether you have a historic tree. So preserving that tree is really, really important to everybody.
Well, something, Tyler, that really impresses me is the fact that this doesn't usually happen, but our governments are very aware of the tree situation, particularly even in the city, far less a suburb. The city of Washington has a department to oversee any work on trees. That if I wanted to take down a tree that had some value, I still need permission in the city of Washington. I'm not talking about something in Georgetown. I'm talking about anywhere. If you take out a tree, you need permission.
Absolutely. It's really, really important to understand the importance of what our government does to help protect our trees so that people aren't just taking trees down. In some cases, trees need to come down, but you need an arborist to identify the problems to take the tree down and do it professionally. But I really think the government has gone a long way for preserving that. In Anne Arundel County, we have the critical area. We need to protect our trees on our water buffers. They're the filters that keep our bay clean. Our bay is what Washington wouldn't be Washington without the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, it really is.
It's our town. We know that.
It's your town. The rivers, the commerce all started. Washington started because of the bay and the commerce that can occur. Annapolis, Baltimore, all of them are there.
It wouldn't be
because
there
of the bay.
They had water route. There were no trains then.
And
no
erosion,
planes,
right?
Water
Developments occurred, and without trees, the bay fills up with silt. Silt kills the animals. So it all starts. The root of everything is trees.
That's a great. We got to write that down. The root of everything. I thought it was evil, but it's trees.
Greed, right?
But the city is very aware of the importance of trees, and I think that's great. We have a lot of problems in a major area, but we have so many people concerned about trees, and I'm very much aware of that, and I think it's great for you, and it's great for the public, and it's great for us. This is Andy Ockershouse, and we're talking trees on our town.
Hi, I'm Charles Mann. For athletes like me, playing every down in a pro game is like getting in a car accident. After years of playing football in Washington, my body is broken. I've had countless surgeries and joint replacements. I've been looking for a non-surgical treatment since I ended my career. I heard a radio ad for a seminar about alternative treatment. It's called regenerative medicine, which stimulates your own body to heal and repair itself. No surgery, no more pain. That got my attention. I went to the seminar to learn firsthand all about it. Now you too can benefit and receive this treatment. This is the same procedure that pro athletes use to quickly and effectively recover from injury. If you're looking to eliminate your pain and arthritis, or if you thought surgery was your only option, take the first step like I did. Call 410-787-7250. Register for the next seminar and learn more about this breakthrough procedure. Seating is limited. Register now by calling 410-787-7250 and start living life again.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell you about Tony and Joe's and Nick's Riverside Grill at Washington Harbor in Georgetown. Spectacular new restaurants. We've spent a lot of time rebuilding. You'll love it. It's really fantastic. For any information, you can go online to tonyandjoes.com. It'll be a wonderful experience for the whole family. Call 202-944-4545 to make reservations. Everything is fabulous. You've got to come down and have some wonderful food.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
This is Andy Ockershausen in a conversation with my favorite arborist, Tyler Balderson. And he's been involved in so many things. He's a member of the Board of Certified Master Arborists. He's a Maryland licensed tree expert. He's a licensed pesticide applicator and certified tree care safety. What he is, he's really a doctor of trees, and he can do it all. He specializes in trees and tree work. A couple of things that Tyler brought up that ring a bell with me is a tree offers so much protection to small animals and small dogs and small children, and we've got to remember and to respect that.
Absolutely.
The value of a tree is so much a part of our surroundings and our environment, and you could talk a little bit about what's important and why it's important.
Absolutely.
And just as important as the bad has got to go to make way for the good. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
You got to
being a board certified master arborist, the most important part is to be able to identify the tree. Each tree has either its mechanism of growth or its concerns that I need to identify for the client. But there's also bad trees or trees we don't want on your property, and we call those invasive species, and they've been brought over from over the years, and what they can do is they can impact the health and growth of a tree that we do want. And to be able to identify those trees is part of my job, so that I can explain to you, hey, this tree should stay, we should focus on it, this tree needs to go. And you may not know it, and not all green is good, so
I understand
we're a quality over quantity. Okay,
so give us a couple ideas of what a bad tree would be.
A bad tree, locust tree, very weak wooded, one of the top trees that could fall over. Black locust they used back in the day for making fence posts, which was great for fence posts and great firewood. We talked a little bit about that. But the tree itself, growing and leaning out over your house, you would not want that tree there. Virginia pine, again, is a very weak wooded tree. If I had a Virginia pine leaning over my house, I'd have it removed right away. They're one of the top 5 trees that fall over. So identify in the wind, absolutely. They're very weak rooted. And other trees like oaks are ones that we'd want to preserve. So if you had 4 or 5 trees surrounding an oak tree and you let those trees outgrow the oak tree, because the oak tree is a slow grower, you'll lose the oak tree and you didn't even know it. And now you have 5 locust or mulberries that could overgrow this oak tree and you didn't even know you lost a specimen tree.
What about the gum tree?
Gumballs, everybody. If you come up with a reason for the gumballs, I'd be retired. Some people put it in packaging. I would say that's a terrible idea, and some people decorate them as gifts, but they're terrible.
Tyler,
you took ours out on our property in Shadyside.
Tyler, it's so funny because we had a man before Tyler Balderson came to Shadyside. We had a young man that came around and he charged $100 to inject something into the gum tree, the gumball tree that says, next year you won't have gumballs.
And how'd that work out?
We had 2 trees.
Twice as many gumballs.
Yes.
We gave him money for 2 trees.
And our neighbors. And we still had the same amount of gumballs that we had the year before.
And I think I told you guys, if you could invent that, I'd be retired many times over.
If that would work,
it does not work. There
is
no
the gumball is the actual gumball? Is that the seed of a female gumball tree?
That is the seed. You're absolutely right. And that's what plants the seed, and then new gumballs grow. The gums are pretty tough, but that gum fruit is an absolute nuisance. Again, get rid of it while it's small.
It takes an expert to identify it.
You got to identify it, and you got to identify it early. Sometimes it can take 15 years for that tree to develop a fruit because it's a young tree and it hasn't developed the fruit yet. So it's really important to identify that, get those out of there. Also, we can get into planting trees. Planting the right tree in the right spot is super important. My dad's a landscape architect. He plants tons of wrong trees in the wrong spot, and we get in arguments about it. Don't plant a fast-growing, tall tree underneath the power line, because all you're going to do is have headaches with the power company. Plant smaller trees, redbuds, dogwoods, serviceberries, even some crepe myrtles will all do well underneath power lines.
Well, what do you know about magnolia? We had a controversy here in Georgetown, our wonderfully wooded area, about a magnolia tree. An owner wanted to cut down a tree, and the city said, sorry, you can't. That tree's got to stay there. But they trimmed the tree back so it died, and they got a big penalty for it. Now, wouldn't an arborist know you can't over-trim a tree?
Absolutely. There's certain ways that you prune trees. You never want to remove more than 25% of live growth in any given year. 25% is a good number. If you remove more than that, the tree's going to respond by either dying or pushing on twice as much growth. So you've just added your maintenance or your growth on that tree. You're diffusing or diluting what your goal is. Your goal is to slow the tree down. That's not going to work. There are products out there to slow the tree down without having to prune it.
It's not just magnolia. It would be true of any tree. Correct?
Any tree. And magnolia is a great tree, but it is a particularly dirty tree. Again, don't plant a magnolia near your pool or patio because they're very dirty. They drop stuff year round. So have the right tree in the right spot. But if you're buying a house or buying a property with a historic tree, you should probably know that and maybe not purchase that property or look at other options rather than trying to get rid of a big, beautiful.
Wouldn't the landscaping and the tree work be important to a builder when he's trying to move a property?
It's essential. And the issue is this.
More than just buying that property. He's going to have to live with it for a while.
Correct. And trees can take 10 to 12 years to die from construction damage. And construction damage, a lot of people that aren't arborists will say, oh, it has a taproot. Not true. Trees grow from the rain that comes down. They need oxygen, and the roots are going to grow where maybe there's construction activity. So it's really important. A lot of people call an arborist in after the fact. And guess what I am? I'm now a mortician. Oh, it's time to cut the tree down. But if you called me in beginning, we can set up some fencing, maybe talk with the architect of where to maybe put a trench. Changing a site, a tree has been growing there for 80 years. Just by changing the site, you're changing the hydrology on the site, and that can cause water to pool where it wasn't or not, and the trees are going to respond, and they're going to die back because it's a shoot-to-root ratio. Less roots, less shoots. So you don't even know you're causing harm to your trees, and before you know it, you call me, and I say, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing that can be done.
Yeah, we ended up putting the pier foundation in our new home as opposed to a solid cement foundation. Yeah.
Exactly, because you would have cut the roots. So pier,
we didn't hurt the roots.
You didn't hurt the roots, and roots again. You have anchoring roots that are deep, but the top 18 to 24 inches, that's the feeder roots. That's the heart system. That's the circulatory system of the tree.
Bread and butter.
You damage them.
What's the spread of a 100-year-old tree like an oak? What is because from when you walk the land and you tell us, you say, hey, look, this is going on 20 feet or 50 feet or whatever. How do you? I know. I think you did tell me you determine the root by the canopy, how far the canopy goes. Is that right?
You are a great listener. Andy O, you need to listen to her more often.
She's a boss. That's right. Why we're here.
So that's a very good question. So we determine the critical area, which is the most important part of the tree. We don't do it by canopy. That's a good way to doing it because that's a good general. But if you had a tree growing in the woods and it didn't have light to grow, it's going to grow tall, but its root system may be wider. So I do it by diameter. So for every inch in diameter, I like to use 1 linear foot of protection. So 20-inch diameter tree, 20 feet linear out is the critical area of the tree. Now, tree roots, if I had my x-ray glasses, and we've done research on this, tree roots can be 3 times the height of the tree. So if you lay a 100-foot tree down, that's 300 feet. A root may extend out beyond that tree. And that's in your neighbor's yard. That's in the city yard. So trees don't understand property boundaries.
I have a question for you regarding
they're confused.
Regarding the neighbor. Okay, so
great question.
Yeah. So when you have a neighbor and your tree is halfway over on their property and the tree falls and it falls into their house, whose responsibility is that tree that's landing, your tree that's landing on somebody else's property?
That is a great question. We get that all the time, the property line disputes, because in your town, Bethesda, Georgetown, trees also don't understand property lines. So their canopies extend over multiple yards. So the law goes all the way back to the days when they basically gave land away. And that property line is an invisible wall to the sky, okay? So if you have a limb that extends over onto your property, you have every right to cut it back to that property line. But in many cases, that's not what's right for the tree. That's not what's best for the tree. So let's all get along. Let's all work together as neighbors to work with contractors to make sure we can do what's right for the trees to properly prune them back. But in the case of a tree that falls over, absolutely. If it falls over, it's just raw lottery. If that neighbor's tree falls over on your house, your insurance company picks up the cost of that. That's just life in general. Your tree falls over and hits theirs, again, their insurance will pick up the case. Now, there is some issues when you get into things like liability. If you have a dead tree and you've been notified of it and it falls over, well, then you could be held liable. So that's more in the consulting arborist stuff. I don't want to get into the trees and the law.
I understand.
But for me as a practitioner, I'm the one that's out there making recommendations. And if again, the root system, if you go in and you dig a trench on your property line to put in your pool, it could affect and kill your neighbor's tree. So if we could all get along in our town and work a little bit better and work with each other. I work really well when neighbors work well together. So let's all get along.
It's better to talk to you before you make a mistake than after, correct?
I can't fix that.
You can't fix a mistake with a dead tree, but
Amen.
You can sure help us get our trees alive and keep them alive.
Absolutely.
Tyler, this has been a great conversation. My Janice is really the expert on trees in our family, and she's done some research, and she's wrote about the book, The Hidden Life of Trees, The Man Who Planted Trees, and Lab Girl.
Yeah, those are just some of the. I love trees. My father was really into trees as well. He always wanted to improve the property with trees. So we have a love for trees in our family. But these are the three titles that I really enjoyed was The Hidden Life of Trees. Of course, you knew about that,
Mm-hmm.
and then The Man Who Planted Trees, written by a New York Times.
That's a
reporter.
great story.
Great
Fabulous.
story. But it talks about how there was cloning the master trees of the world, and it's such a great book. And then the other one, Lab Girl, was one I read recently, and it talks about trees communicating and protecting each other. And I thought that was so interesting as well.
It's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation with Tyler about his love, and he's turned Janice and I into tree lovers also, and tree huggers. But to realize, and as I did because of you, Tyler, how important trees are has been a monumental effort for me to come to grips with that. They're monumentally important to our society and to our lifestyle.
Now, I would like this opportunity for Tyler to give himself a plug with his website.
Okay. How about plug your website?
www.bartlett.com. All the information you need about service. If you need service, if you want an arborist to come out and take a look at your trees, it doesn't cost anything. Have an arborist, be proactive, love your trees like we love your trees. There's 100.
Why don't you plug Tyler Balderson?
Well, Tyler Balderson, absolutely.
I think I'm going to include in the Our Town photo library the picture of you hugging our big oak tree.
You have a picture of that?
Yeah.
And I still swing. Anytime I'm in your town, I
swing.
I go on that swing and I swing on. And to be honest with you, you go hug a tree. You will connect like never before. And it may look silly, but I'm gonna tell you what, you're gonna feel a little bit better about it. Get outside, get off your laptops, put your iPads down, get out, hug a tree, plant a tree, love on some trees.
Everything else follows. Tyler,
right.
This has been a wonderful conversation. I hope our public and people that love our town take your advice to heart, because the trees need us and we need them. Thank you very much, Tyler Balderson. This is Andy Ockershow, and this is Our Town.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 4, presented by Geico, our hometown favorite, with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. Drop us a line with your comments or suggestions, see us on Facebook, or visit our website at OurTownDC.com. Our special thanks to Ken Hunter, our technical director, and WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. And thanks to Geico. 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance.